So, hello and welcome, Tommy Olsson. Please, can you tell us who you are?
Yes, of course. Thank you for letting me be here. My name is Tommy Olsson, and I work as a specialist at the Agency for Digital Government in Sweden. We are the monitoring agency for the Web Accessibility Directive in Sweden.
Welcome. And you are going to demonstrate to us a new tool that you have developed.
That's right. I'm going to share my screen here so you can see it. There. Yes. As you know, as a part of the Web Accessibility Directive and the national legislation, every public sector body is required to publish one or more accessibility statements for their services. The template from the Commission is rather difficult to use, so I built this tool to hopefully make it a little bit easier. It's currently available in English or Swedish. I'm going to show you the English version right now, but it's simple to just change the language to Swedish and proceed from here. I'm also going to use a pre-populated file here to save some time. So I upload it and step to the main interface. As you can see, we have a tabbed interface with 5 tabs and a couple of buttons at the bottom.
Excuse me, could you please resize, maybe zoom in a little bit so we make use of the screen? Thank you very much.
Right. Right. At the bottom, as I said, we have 2 buttons here. We have the save form, which you can use at any time during this process to save the information onto your hard drive as an XML file, and then upload it as I just did. And we have the generate statement button, which we will use when everything is filled in. The first tab is the organization tab, where we filled in the name of the public agency, the public sector body, contact information optional, and a formal endorsement is also optional. We have to provide a feedback mechanism in the statement according to the directive. So in this tab, you enter the URL for the feedback mechanism, and you are also able to enter a typical response time if you can guarantee something like 2 working days or a week or whatever. It's an optional field. The third tab, digital service, is where we put in the information regarding the name and type of the digital service, which can be a website or a mobile application. We have a name for it, which can be the domain name or some other name for the service. A mobile application, you have to specify a version number and a publication date. For a website, there's no version, but you can and are encouraged to specify publication dates. If you invoke an exemption for a disproportionate burden, according to Section 12 in the Swedish legislation, you are required to document the content that is inaccessible and why you consider it to be a disproportionate burden. There may also be some content on your website which is outside of the scope of the regulations, according to the Section 9 in the Swedish regulations. And that should also be documented here so that users will know what it is. By starting lines with a dash or hyphen sign, you will produce a bulleted list in the generated statement. If you have a longer text in a text area, you can just put in a blank line and keep typing to produce paragraphs. The fourth tab is the method tab, describing the assessment method, which can be self-assessment if you do it yourself, third-party assessment if some external party has tested a website, or other is probably not applicable in Sweden, but it's a possibility in the Commission's template if you have another approved assessment method in that country. You can specify who made the assessment. It's not required, but the assessment date is required. You can also provide a link describing the assessment method, and it's very good if you can provide a link to the evaluation report, of course. And the complicated tab in this one is the one called compliance, which is where you specify how you comply to the legislation. There are two options. The one shown here is used by filling out a checklist. If you have a WCAG checklist from an assessment, you can use that to put in detailed information here. As an option, you can also just write your own description of anything that is not in compliance with the regulations. The help text on the right-hand side will show the text from WCAG, and basically you have to fill in information for all the 48 criteria that are encompassed by the law. You may specify an estimated deadline when you plan to achieve full accessibility or full compatibility with the law. For every criterion, you have a mapping to the 10 usage situations according to Appendix B in the EN standard. For instance, 1.1.1 is mapped to 4 usage situations: without vision, limited vision; without hearing, limited hearing. And if you specify anything but fully compliant here, you have to enter information in one or more of these boxes. The normal way to do this, if you have a reasonably compliant website, is to use this navigation to go to the ones where you have problems, and you specify here partially compliant or not compliant, and you fill in information of how it affects various usage situations. And when you're done, you can just go to one that is fully compliant, and then you just click apply for all remaining, and it will fill in this status for every criterion that does not yet have another status. So that is basically what you do. You go through this, and when you're done, or when you feel like it, you can click save the form. You get the file manager typical from your operating system, and you can save this XML file somewhere on your hard drive. And when you're finished, satisfied with everything, you click generate statement, and you get the completed accessibility statement with some cookie cutter text filled in with placeholders from the form. If you have opted for using a checklist, as we did here, the tool will generate anchor links to for each usage situation. So you can click, for instance, on usage without hearing, and you will come directly to the description of the issues that the person without hearing can reasonably expect on this site. There's some more standard text about what happens if it's not accessible, contact information, how to report accessibility problems using the feedback mechanism, about the enforcement procedure, and a link to DIGG's complaint form. And then we have the non-compliance with the regulations, which is known accessibility problems on this site. We specified an estimated deadline, and that will appear here. If we have invoked an exemption for disproportionate burden, that text will appear here. And if we have content without the scope from the regulations, it will appear here, as you see, as a bulleted list, because we started the lines with hyphens. And finally, information about the assessment method and testing, linking to the method and linking to the report, and today's date as the last update date. And what you can do is to save this as an HTML file on your hard drive. You can then either edit that HTML file to add your company or agency logo and CSS and whatnot, or you can copy and paste information from that template or from that statement into your content management system.
Okay, very good.
And that's about it.
And did you plan to release this within a few days?
Yes, our plan is to make it public on the Global Accessibility Awareness Day, which this year is on the 21st of May, Thursday, 21st of May.
Very good.
And we will then also publish a news story on DIGG.se with the URL for this and everything.
Very good. And you also have, I think, some template documents for those who do not want to use the generator.
Yes, that's right. There's a Word document and an HTML equivalent on DIGG.se, which we've had there for almost a year now, I think. So if you don't want to use this tool, you can use those templates instead. And they built up along the same lines as this one, which is built based on the version made by gov.uk in Britain.
Okay, so thank you very much, Tommy, for appearing. And looking forward to talking to you again on this interesting topic. And bye.
Okay, thank you.